Hi folks, Happy New Year and welcome to Training Tip Thursday. I thought today that we would talk a little bit about bracing. And bracing comes from as in brace yourself, get ready, it's going to happen. I'm sure we've all had those times in a race. I certainly have. In fact, probably almost every single race where it gets hard and your brain is just yelling at you. You can't hold the pace. You got to stop. You got to slow down. And sometimes we think, well, if I trained harder, I would not have that happen. And the fact is, if you're giving it what you have for that given race, that's always going to happen. It happens to the elites. It happens to everybody. What the elites are really good at, though, is bracing themselves. They know that's going to come, and they've developed ways that they can get past that. For example, I was reading about somebody the other day who said that he thinks about his eyelids. And when they said, well, why in the world do you think about your eyelids? He said, it's the only part of my body that doesn't hurt. I like to think about something that's feeling good. Meb Keflezighi, when he won Boston, talked about the last 5 miles being the hardest 5 miles of his life and how much he had the one side of his brain, the angel on the shoulder, devil, stop, you can't hold this. And the other one said, no, you got to go. We've got to win this. We can do Boston. He had that constant battle for 5 miles. So you do need to brace yourself because you're going to have those points in a race. I've shown graphs like this before, a little bit better than what I could do with a marker at my mother-in-law's house, but this shows a 5K, what typically happens. So down here you see your actual effort during the 5K. It's actually pretty even during a 5K. Generally your last mile is just a little bit faster than your first mile, but your effort's actually pretty even. It's your perceived effort that skyrockets. It's right around 1.5 miles or so in the 5K, at least for me. It really goes up, and by the time you get to the end, it is a skyrocketing perceived effort. So first you need to realize it's perceived effort, it's not the real effort. And what's going on is your brain is designed to give you early warnings. So maybe as a kid, or you've seen this on TV, you get look at, I'm going to hold my breath and kill myself until I pass out or whatever, and they can't do that. The brain's going to kick in and make them breathe. It's the same type of thing. When the brain says, hey, I'm getting worried about this, it's going to start telling you, you know what, you need to shut down a little bit. The brain is doing that really, really early. You're actually in no danger unless you took off way too fast. You're really not in danger of having anything happen. So you need to brace yourself for the fact that that is going to come and have techniques to say, so what am I going to do to push through this? In some of my last races, believe it or not, I've said this, and maybe you don't believe me, I think about the people in this group and say, I'm not going to get back into the group and say, yeah, I kind of gave up. I can't do that. I've got to push. I know I've got this. That has helped me get through in some of the other races. I read about one of the elites who said he thinks about his eyelids. And when they asked him, why in the world do you think about your eyelids? He said, it's the only part of my body that's not hurting at the time. So what is that right thing for you? I don't know what that is, and we can talk about that and come up with different techniques. But I think the first thing is to realize if it's a goal race and you're training, you're giving everything, and you're going at the right paces, it's still going to get hard. Be prepared. That's normal. That's not going to go away. The question is, what am I going to do to deal with that when it comes so I can shove it aside and keep going? Because your brain is going to fire earlier than you really have a problem to say you've got to stop because your perceived effort is so high. So much more that we can talk about, but brace yourself.